Hello, everyone. Welcome to our final career panel of the week. This is public safety and first responders. My name is Wendy Swanson. I am the work-based learning coordinator at Sonoma Valley High School. Also on the call, who you don't see right now, we have Rachel Kobe from, she's the college and career counselor at Tamales High School. She is our Zoom assistant, and she'll be coming on to help with questions at the end. And also behind the scenes is Elizabeth Arnst at Sonoma County Office of Education, and she's making the whole thing work together. The person you do see on the screen is John Greenslade, who is a firefighter with Sonoma Valley Fire and Rescue. We have two other people on our panel, which in the world of first responders, sometimes they're responding. So Sonoma Police Chief Orlando Rodriguez is hopefully joining us soon. We're trying to track down where he is, but there's a chance he's out on a call. And Deputy Chris Haas, he's the tactical flight officer for the Henry 1 helicopter with the Sheriff's Department. And he actually did go out on a call, but he's on his way back now and he should be joining us shortly. So John Greenslade is going to have to carry the load for a little bit, but you're probably used to that. So anyways, a couple of notes quickly before we start. Students, you watching live or anyone watching live, the chat function is disabled, but you're able to ask questions through the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. And Rachel will read those and relate those back to us during the panel. You'll also have access later on to a registration form. So any students that need to give confirmation to their teachers that they actually did attend, they will be able to fill out that form, and that information will go to your teacher. So somebody just jumped on. Oh, Chief Rodriguez, thank you for jumping on. I can't see you, but I can hear you, I hope. Can you hear us? Well, not sure. Hopefully you can hear us. Are you there, Chief Rodriguez?
I am here. Sorry.
Oh, good.
Some technical difficulties here. Hello.
Yeah, I know. So, and we're waiting on Deputy Chris Haas from Henry 1, had to go on a call, but I think he's jumping on soon. So I was just going over sort of the ground rules for everyone and introducing all of you. So our other panelist who just got on for everyone is Chief Orlando Rodriguez from Sonoma. It's Sonoma Sheriff's Department, but he's the police chief of the city of Sonoma. So I'm going to start by asking you all some questions, and then we'll leave time at the end for questions from our audience. So my first question to each of you is to sort of give me a rundown about what your career is, what your position is right now, what your education and or career path was to get there, and sort of your favorite things about your job. So John, we'll start with you.
Sure. My name is John Greenslade. I've been with Sonoma Valley Fire and Rescue for 24 years now, so it's been a while. Like many people in life, my career path here took a couple twists and turns to get there. I didn't actually start working for the fire department until I was around 26 was when I got hired. I had gone to college before that. I was the youngest of four, and all four kids in my family went to college. None of my parents hadn't gone to college, so it was important for them to have us go to college. And then after that, I was kind of thinking, well, what am I going to do with my life now? And I had some friends, family members that were firefighters. And so I went in that direction and pursued that. And I became a firefighter and a paramedic. And I've been doing that for 24 years. Love it. It's the greatest job in the world. You get to go out, you get to help people, you get to solve problems. People call 911 for all sorts of reasons. We all know the cat in the tree for the fire department, but we also go out for medical aids. We go out if someone's water main to their house is broken, or the water inside the house is broken, they don't know how to turn off the water of their house. We'll go out for things like that as well. And then obviously things as serious as the fires that we've had with evacuations and getting people out of homes. Although the Sheriff's Department really does more of the evacuation stuff, but we're there to put the fires out and help people out. For me, I think it's the greatest job in the world. I get to go out, I get to interact with people, I get to help people, I get to work with my hands, and I really, really enjoy it. And I recommend all of you follow this path because I think it's a great one. And the first step you've already taken, which is a good one, is listening to this webinar. No matter what you want to do in life, if you see someone doing it, go talk to that person and ask them how they got there, because obviously that person's gotten that job, so they know how to get there. They can give you one pathway at least. So.
Great, thank you. Welcome, Deputy Haas. I see that you've just joined us. Thank you so much. I'm glad your call got canceled. You're muted, so we can't hear you, but we're glad you got
hopefully.
Great, thank you. I've gone through the ground rules and I'm just introducing, I've just asked the first question of the panelists, which is to give us your career background, how you got interested in the field, and your career path and what you're doing currently in your career. So I'm just about to turn it over to Chief Rodriguez for him to tell us, and then we'll move over to you, Deputy Haas. So Chief Rodriguez.
Good afternoon, everyone. Orlando Rodriguez, Sonoma County Sheriff's Office, currently assigned to the Sonoma Police Department as the Chief of Police. And I got interested in law enforcement growing up in a very tough neighborhood. There was a lot of drug dealing going on, and the only time I got to see the cops was when they came and raided the area, and a lot of people went to jail. And that's one of the things that caught my attention, that, you know, I saw what drugs would do to people and how the quality of life would change. And I felt that maybe I could make a difference, especially being bilingual, being able to speak 2 languages. I felt that I can make a difference. And growing up, you know, I went to high school, graduated from high school. I worked eventually ended up working at a store where, you know, I got to know some of the cops. And during, you know, this happened a long time ago, but it seems like this is one of the things we're still dealing with today in society. You know, you guys are all in high school and you read the news and you read the media and you see what's going on around, you know, this great nation of ours with police and everything that's going on. But when I was growing up in the 90s, everybody, you know, if you're old enough, you'd heard about Rodney King. And that was a changing moment for me when the police officers came to me and you know, they told me, if you want to make a difference, you should join the force, because maybe we're looking for people like you to educate us and make us better. And I did take that career path, and I had a lot of help. You know, I'm not ashamed to say it, that, you know, a lot of people helped me, motivate me to go to college and eventually become a police officer. And one of the things that I've learned is to, you know, once you set your mind to something, know what your capabilities are, and then just keep moving forward. And if somebody tells you no, just keep going forward and keep doing it. So I've been very lucky to have to work for, you know, I started with the Petaluma Police Department, great organization. I wanted to do more. And I joined the Sheriff's Office because I wanted to be a narcotics officer. And I was for about four years. I was lucky enough to also have a narcotics canine. So there was a lot of training, a lot of work that went into it, a lot of hard work to eventually get promoted to a sergeant, and then eventually to a lieutenant, and then eventually, you know, get selected to be the chief of police, and, you know, to hopefully someday make a difference for everybody in the community. So this is where I'm at. One of the best things about this job is that you engage with the public a lot, engage with students and with members of the community, and hopefully I take something from them. I learn from, you know, every day you learn something new, and hopefully they learn something from me. So this is where I'm at. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, great. Thank you for being here. Okay, Deputy Haas, if you could tell us about your background and your position now.
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up in Santa Rosa. I really had no interest in high school of being a police officer. It was nothing that was something that kind of crossed my mind until I started at the junior college. I was kind of in a weird position. I was always had a aviation background and was really interested in aviation. And I worked at a flight school at this airport. And one of our students at the flight school was a deputy sheriff. And one day he said, "Hey, you should go on a ride along with me some Friday night." And I thought, well, I mean, seems like something cool to do, but it wasn't, I mean, again, it was nothing that I thought about like making a career of. So I went on a ride along with him one night, and it was life-changing in the aspect that I was kind of like, wow, I mean, nothing really that amazing happened on this ride along, but it was just like to see all the different kind of calls he went to, the people he talked to, the way he presented himself. I was like, man, that seems like maybe that's something that would be good for me. I love talking to people and I love getting to know new people. And I mean, it seems cool that you get to do all these kind of different, I mean, you get to drive fast and do cool stuff. So I got into it kind of with the naiveness of that seems like a neat thing to do. And then I kind of did some more research about it, becoming an explorer for our agency, which allows people to 21 years old to kind of wear a uniform and get to see what law enforcement is about. And because I was just kind of wanting to test the waters, the more I was like, man, I think this is the career for me. And I was going to junior college, transferred to Sonoma State. And then kind of in the back of my head, I thought, man, that would be a cool job to do. And I could see myself being a patrol deputy, but it would be really neat to be able to get into it eventually on the aviation side. And that was just kind of what I worked towards. So when I was 22, when I was 20, I was able to get a internship with the department working in the violent crimes division. And that led into when I turned 22, they allowed me, they like me and I went to the academy. And then I've been doing this ever since. I'm 37 now. And the last 4 years I've been assigned to the helicopter on Henry 1. And that's just totally cool in the sense of I get to do all the kind of the fun patrol stuff. So I get to chase bad guys just in a helicopter, but then, you know, we obviously do a lot of rescues and stuff like that. So it's a pretty neat, I mean, I'm not going to lie. I think a lot of people would say I have a kind of a dream job, and it is really, really, really cool. But it takes, you know, it took a long time to get here, but, you know, I know firsthand that you can, you apply yourself and you want to do something badly enough and you keep working towards it. You'll eventually get there. So I've been really, really fortunate.
Thank you. And just to clarify, as the tactical flight officer, what technically is your role on the helicopter?
So I'm the crew chief on the helicopter. So essentially what I do is I coordinate, I talk to the guys on the ground, I talk to our dispatch, I'm listening to the police and fire radios, deciding what calls we're going to go to. I'm operating all of our camera equipment on board, and I'm kind of coordinating the mission from between the guys on the ground, us in the air, telling the pilot what he needs to do. And then when we're rescuing someone, I'm hanging on the bottom of the line. Let this airplane pass. I'm hanging on the bottom of the line, and I'm the rescuer on the bottom of the line when we're rescuing people.
Wow. Great, thank you. Okay, I'm wondering, I think, John, I'm going to ask you this because I see yours as being most affected, but my question is how you see your career, your profession changing in the next 5 to 10 years. John, I think with the wildfires, maybe you've got maybe the most effect coming, but if you could speak to that. You're muted, John.
Okay, I think I'm unmuted now. The fire department has a joke of, you know, we have 200 years of tradition not changed by any progress. We're can be a little slow to change with things. You know, I think one of the biggest things is technology and being more involved in technology and being good with technology. I know we just got some drones, and using those when you have large wildland fires or fires in areas, and one, just even find out where the fire is. Sometimes that can actually be difficult, knowing where the fire is. Someone sees a fire, they know it's on the other side of the valley, but they can't tell you exactly where it is. And so we're out there trying to find it, going up and down every road. But if you have a drone, you can go find that. So, you know, I know with everyone know we made fun of kids playing video games when they were younger. I did with my kids, but actually it's pretty good hands-on skill to have now, because that's kind of how you run drones. So being able to use technology and being comfortable with technology. I mean, here we are talking on Zoom, and I'm not necessarily that good with computers and phones, and this is how we're having this conversation. So that's definitely going to be part of the future. A lot of our stuff that we use right now for recording all reports, if we go on a patient or a house fire and we have to record what we did, everything now is being done on tablets and phones. So having good technology, and then some of the stuff we've always done, but we're definitely trying to emphasize more, is being able to communicate with your community, you know, being able to speak the language of the people that live in your community. So if any kind of that background is always going to help you out as well.
Yeah, great. Thank you. How about you, Chief Rodriguez? What do you see as changes in the next 5 to 10 years? You're muted too.
Keep forgetting about that.
Yeah.
A lot of it is, again, it's technology is changing the way we do our job. And so we have to learn how to, you know, build on that technology. We've had a drone program probably for the last 3 years, I believe, 3 or 4 years. And we just got a drone here last year and a half ago here in Sonoma, which was very helpful in tracking a person that had assaulted somebody and was in a house armed. And he walked outside the rear door and tried to evade us. But with the drone, we were able to watch him, and we were able to slowly maneuver a team to take him into custody safely without anybody being hurt. So technology obviously is one of those big things that's going to change the way we do things around our job out in the field. As an administrator, I think we're because of what's going on in the country, I think we're going to see a lot more reform, a lot more things that we're going to do things a little bit differently. I'm waiting to see what those changes are going to be. Some of those changes are probably not going to come out of our office, or probably going to come from the state. Things that are, engaging people or more training. And so we're going to see some changes, like in the last 5 years, we all wear body worn cameras now. So that's just a regular part of our job. And I can just see more reform in that regards on how we deal and engage with people. So definitely we want a lot of people who come from different backgrounds, who can speak different languages, and definitely who are very well educated to help us even further ourselves to continue to evolve.
Great, thank you. Deputy Haas, I'm sure you rely on technology and things like that all the time. Do you see changes in your field in the next 5 to 10 years?
Absolutely. This helicopter that we're operating today is 2 years old. It's the same exact model helicopter that we had before, just 20 years newer. So I've seen just in the last couple of years, the amount of technology on this helicopter versus the last one, when it comes to our camera equipment, our radio equipment, our phones on board, it helps me do my job a lot more efficiently, and it helps me catch bad guys or locate lost people a lot easier. So I think obviously in that's only going to continue the next 5 to 10 years. I also think that especially with the helicopter is a great PR tool for the sheriff's office. And obviously, we're kind of helicopters are cool. On any given day, a helicopter flying in the air is cool. But I think the cool thing that our department has done and is going to continue to do is the amount of community engagement we do. And I think a helicopter is a great kind of bridge to be able to do more community engagement. I think we're going to obviously continue with that. I know our department has a really good social media program. As a flight officer, I'm part of that social media program because obviously they like to have us post things that we do. And I think we're just going to keep building on that. I think COVID was probably a little bit of a step back because we were big into doing public demos and stuff like that. But I think you're just going to see that ramp up more and more as kind of the pandemic hopefully is coming, fingers crossed, coming to a close.
Yeah, that's great. I follow Henry Wan on Facebook, so I see those things. I'm curious what you would say, you think for kids that are interested, what do you think are the most important skills for a student to develop or to have if they want to go into one of your fields? Let's stick with you, Deputy Hawes. What would you say?
So for me, I'm going to be totally transparent. I was not a great student in high school. But that being said, what I did find is I went into college and I saw stuff that this career and obviously aviation, it was something that interested me, I really could apply myself to. So the biggest thing I could say is you got to get through school, and then you've got to find things that interest you and apply yourself. For my career field, I will say, thank goodness, I did take English classes seriously, because in law enforcement, you got to write a lot of reports. It's just kind of the name of the game. So whether I'm on patrol writing reports, our patrol deputies are writing a ton of reports, but even up here, writing flight logs every day, I'm writing rescue reports. I'm having to write supplements to the reports that the deputies on the ground are doing. Reading and writing are really, really important. And then I'll also say, and it kind of touches on what other people have said today, is kind of knowing technology. The amount of technology I use in this helicopter is crazy. And it does sometimes feel like, especially when I'm searching with the camera, it's like I'm playing a big, really, really expensive video game. And it's just, you've got to be able to have those skills, because that's kind of the future. And that's kind of what I think is most important.
Chief Rodriguez, would you add anything to that?
Yeah, I would say that, like Deputy Haas, if you have an interest in something other than law enforcement and it's a career path to something different, do it. Because for law enforcement, we want people with different trades, that bring a different application to us. Because when you decide that I'm going to be a police officer, and like Deputy Haas, he joined the Explorer program at a very young age. So if you're interested right now in this career field, I would suggest start with the Explorer program and engage in that. But if you're interested in getting your degree in something else, go get it. Because eventually, if you decide you get your bachelor's degree in, let's say, accounting, and you said, I always wanted to be a cop, I'm going to go and we'll hire you. You apply and we hire you, and the agency hires you. We'll send you to the academy. We'll teach you how to become a police officer. We'll teach you that, and the training will continue. Eventually, your degree will help you move up into a field where, hey, this person's got an accounting background. We need somebody that's good with budgets. Let's promote that person. Or this person has a medical field. Let's put him with Henry One because, we need an EMT type of person to go up with in Henry One. So those skills that you bring into our office or any agency will help that agency even much better to become a better agency.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think Rachel's going to, in a minute, post a link for the Explorers program. So if students are interested in it, there'll be a link in the chat for the Sonoma County Explorers program. John, how about you? What skills do you think are most important for becoming a firefighter?
I think a lot of the skills you need, we will teach you some of the skills, but there's two things we can't teach you. And I think this is true for a lot of other careers as well. And that's attitude and persistence. These kind of jobs, definitely firefighter, it's a team environment. And so if you can't take criticism well, if you feel you can't communicate well with people and you get easily angry at people, it's just not going to work. That's not what the public wants when you're there, and that's not what your other people that you're working with want. So yeah, you have to have a good attitude. And the other thing is persistence. Like I said, I didn't get hired till I was 26, and a lot of people want these jobs. Some jobs I went to when I was first doing down in LA, there was 10,000 people applying for Long Beach Fire Department. And you just got to keep going. You just got to keep doing it. And that's the same thing with all these classes. The classes you have to take at the JC to become a firefighter, they may feel hard to you, but they're not that hard if you stay persistent at it and you want it and you keep working at it. You can do it. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to be able to do all these things, but you do have to have a good attitude and you do have to have good persistence. We got plenty of smart guys that have a terrible attitude, and they might pass everything, but we don't want to hire them full time because who wants someone with a really terrible attitude around them? It's just not going to work. So I'd say attitude and persistence.
John, can you speak a minute to, we have a question in the Q&A about wanting to become a paramedic. And I know that all the Sonoma firefighters now have to also be paramedics. Can you speak a little bit to that?
So for Sonoma Fire, you have to be a paramedic to get hired, although we've recently hired people that weren't paramedics and we're putting them through paramedic school, which is pretty rare because that's kind of expensive. For big city departments, you don't always have to be a paramedic, but if you're a paramedic, you're going to get hired a lot quicker because that's what they're looking for. If you want to become a paramedic, generally in California and probably across the nation too, you have to become an EMT first. You take that class at the JC, and that's a 1 semester long class. And then you have to have years experience as an EMT. Ideally, if you can work for an ambulance company, that's great, but you just kind of have to have your EMT license for a year, trying to get whatever EMT work you can, hospital, wherever. And then you apply to paramedic school. And different paramedic programs have different requirements. The JC has a couple of requirements. There's some classes you have to take ahead of time that'll help you out for the class. So, and then when you go to paramedic school, you can have a full-time one that's like every day, Monday through Friday, but most people at this point are working in life. So a lot of people go to the part-time one. And so that can last a little bit longer. So kind of the whole process in general, you should think this is going to be a 2 to 3 year process you're going to have to go through. And that's what I'm talking about with persistence. Right now, I know at 18 or 17 or however old you are, you think, God, 2 or 3 years, that's a lifetime. It really isn't. It really goes by quick. And if it's the job that you want, and I'm telling you, it's a great job, it's worth doing it. Just keep plugging at it and you will get it. And you'll see people with you along the way. So I'm quitting. It's too hard. I'm not going to do it. And in the end, you'll have that job and they'll come to you and be like, I should have stuck with it. I should have done it, But for becoming a paramedic, it's going to take you probably roughly a 2 to 3 year time period. And you have to become an EMT first and go to paramedic school and graduate paramedic school. And And many fire departments want you to be a paramedic, but realize there are some fire departments you don't have to be. It's just a lot harder to get hired because all they're looking for is a high school degree, and millions of people have high school degrees. So just for example, that Long Beach test was 1 in 10,000. The Sonoma test, which is a much smaller area, I think I was 1 out of 100 because they're only hiring paramedics. So your odds of getting hired 1 out of 100 are a lot better than 1 in 10,000.
Great. And John, I know that, I'm not sure Sonoma Valley does, but I know other fire departments around Sonoma County also have an Explorers program for like high school kids that are interested.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. We're really lucky in Sonoma County and kind of this area, the Bay Area, the North Bay Area. Most of our fire departments have volunteers. Not all, the bigger ones don't, but most of the departments have volunteers and Explorer programs. So if you're 18 and under, you can join the Explorer program and you're still in school. They meet, I think, once a month or maybe a couple times a month. And they go over pretty much the exact same training we do. So you get an idea if you actually like to be a firefighter. I mean, you can just go to your closest fire department. For Sonoma Valley, it would be either Kenwood or Shell Vista, and they could tell you. If you guys don't live here, you can actually call Kenwood or Shell Vista, and they can probably tell you where the Explorer posts are in your area. And the other thing is, once you turn 18, you can become a volunteer firefighter. Our fire department has full-time paid guys, but we also have volunteers. And we rely on our volunteers. They can actually work every day if they want to. We have shifts available for them. So you can actually be doing the job of the firefighter. And that's how we've actually hired a lot of our guys, is having them be volunteers and come in and do it. And we'll give you all the training. You take some classes at the JC as well, but we'll give you all the training, except for the EMT and paramedic. You have to go to the JC to get hired full-time. But the other training you can do, and you can be a volunteer. And we have some guys that they have other careers, they're mechanics or whatever, and they've just been volunteers their whole lives, and they love that as well.
Great. I'm hoping you guys can hang on a little bit longer. It's almost to the half-hour mark, but we do have a number of questions in the chat. So can you guys stick around for 5 minutes or so more?
Sure.
I'm going to turn it over to Rachel for the chat, but I'm going to ask you one of the chat questions, which I loved, because when I was 18 through 22, I was a wildland firefighter, and I agree with John, the greatest job ever. Sometimes I wish I'd stuck with it. But there's a question about, opportunities for women in the field. So
do you want me to talk?
Whoever wants to tackle that. Go ahead, John.
Okay, I wasn't sure if I was on or not on.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when I first got hired in Sonoma, one of our assistant chiefs was a female and one of my coworkers was female, and that's 24 years ago. Obviously women make up 50% of the population or more, and most fire departments don't have 50% of women, but we're always looking to have, the most important thing I think for every public agency is you want qualified people that represent your community, that look like your community, so your community feels like they're part of them. So the fire department's always trying to hire females. There is a difficulty with females just because, like for me, I'm 6'2". For me to throw a ladder is easy. When you're 5'5", which girls tend to be shorter, it's harder, but you can still do it. You just train on it. That's all.
Yeah.
So I strongly encourage women to do it.
Okay, great. How about in the
Yeah, we are always encouraging people to apply, especially females. And sometimes we look for, we put ads recruiting females to come deputy sheriffs. And unfortunately, the jobs, they require a lot. That from when I worked in personnel, one of the questions that I would always ask women is why aren't you interested in becoming a police officer? And a lot of the answers that I was getting was because the field is just it takes away from home, especially if they're looking to be at home from Monday, or on weekends with the kids and all that. And it was just too much for a lot of the women that were looking for a professional field, and they were capable. We even went to to Sonoma State and recruiting softball teams, volleyball teams, people who were more than capable, probably even stronger than I could ever be, and they were not interested. And it's a lot that we require of our officers to do this job, but we are constantly recruiting women in the field, and we have women who are police officers that are doing a good job, and when you ask them, they say it's not as bad as people think it is. So we definitely need to put a lot, I think, in our efforts to recruit even more women, and we need to put the women that are cops now in the front line and saying, go and recruit more women so you can talk to your experiences. You've had kids while you were a police officer. How did you handle that? Because at the end of the day, a female is doing this job, she has to take a year off, right? In that year, the department keeps going forward. And then how does that affect you? So I can't answer the question, but I think in my aspect, I think we need to put women in the front to start recruiting more women and telling them it's not as bad as you think. We promote females. You know, we had Andy Salas just retired as a lieutenant. We have, in our jail, we have, I believe we have several lieutenant who are female. And then we have sergeant females too. So, I mean, the hardest part is just to recruit females. And it's just something that hopefully we'll be able to overcome someday.
Great, thank you. And if you don't mind, Deputy Haas, I'm going to let us turn over to some of the Q&A because we do have a lot of questions asked by the students. And so I'm going to turn it over to Rachel, but I'm also going to tell you some of the questions. Rachel's put a bunch of great links in the chat. So check those out for some opportunities. So thanks, Rachel.
Yeah, no problem. And Wendy, I had no idea. That's so cool that you were a wildland firefighter. That's awesome.
It was a million years ago.
All right, so let's see. I'm going to start one that's kind of a general question for all of you. What is the hardest part of your job personally? And Christopher, I'll start with you.
For me personally, the hardest part of my job is it's kind of we go to, I mean, especially on the helicopter, we kind of go to people's, I mean, patrol guys go to everybody's worst day. No one's calling the police to tell them what a great day they had. We go to some pretty, especially with some of the rescues we do, and unfortunately we do everything up to body recovery. So we go to really, really, really bad things. And I think sometimes you have to, in order to be able to do your job, you have to separate yourself and almost, I mean, I'm a pretty caring person, and sometimes you just have to almost just blank out, what that person is going through right then. Not that don't have empathy for them, but it's hard. Being an empathetic person, sometimes it's very difficult to go to scenes and see really horrible things and people lose their lives and have to be intimately involved with helping recover them, because that's very important for their family. But that's a hard part of my job. That's a really, really hard part of my job.
Thank you. How about you, John?
Along the same lines, it's definitely the life-ending tragedies, especially if it's a younger person that hasn't had a chance for their full opportunity in life. And the hard part of that is you get those images, and they're just part of your mental images that you're always going to have in your mind. And I just always try to take the attitude: we were there to help, we were there to do our best, we were there to try to make things better, and it didn't work out. And it just kind of helps you live with those kinds of thoughts. It's part of the job. It is something that you will. It may sound horrible right now at a young age, but as you get older in life, you learn to deal with these kinds of things.
Anything else from you, Orlando?
It's the same thing. I mean, it's the hardest part that I've ever done in this job is, and I think Chris and John will probably never have to do it, but I don't know if he's had the opportunity, is when we have to go tell bad news to loved ones about their loved ones, right? So we're tasked with that job and we have to go do it. And it's one of the hardest part to do, but this job has a lot of rewards too. So you just have to, kind of navigate through it and do the best that you can and keep a positive attitude at all times.
Thank you. And Orlando, this one's specifically for you. We have a student who wants to become a crime scene investigator. Can you talk about any experiences you've had working with crime scene investigators? Yes,
well, I had the experience and actually worked for our crime scene investigations unit from 2008 to 2012. So having a narcotics background did help me get that job, because I knew, had done investigations, complex investigations, but now it was changing my mindset to collecting evidence, photographing, and then figuring out, what is it that I need to collect? What is it that I don't need to collect? And what is it that we're trying to accomplish here? So it was more working as a team with the team, and then knowing what we had. And then, dusting for fingerprints, DNA evidence, and fingerprints is, I never thought that I would be grabbing a fingerprint card, looking at it and guessing, okay, that's got a whirl pattern with a swoop. So we're looking for a right thumb with the whirl pattern. And then you just go use technology to see if you can get any hits. And then you start looking at the prints and you start plotting points. to see if you can make an identification. And I had to go to school for that. I didn't go to school in high school for that. I didn't go to college for that. But this job sent me to school so I could start learning how to read fingerprints. So again, like I keep saying, if you're interested in law enforcement or fire or EMT and that's your passion, go for it. But if there's something else that you have more passion for it, get your degree and then give us a shot. We'll train you to do all those things. So so I know I read another question in there, what does it take to be a firefighter or police officer? And I think we all pretty much the same character. I think John answered the question: good character, honesty, perseverance, and make good choices as you're growing up and going through college, right? Make good choices.
That's great advice. Thank you. Wendy, do we have time for one more?
Maybe a couple more.
Okay. All right, John, this one is for you. What was your experience like going through the fire academy when you went through it?
The fire academy, I grew up down in the LA area and I did it down in Inglewood. And that was one of the greatest experiences I ever had. That really confirmed to me that I wanted to be a firefighter. I had done that before I became a paramedic, and I did it at the community college down there, El Camino Community College. And it was like, I had like football and sports, and it was like being part of a team again. You just had a great group of guys that really got along really well together and had a really good time. And that really cemented in my mind that I wanted to become a firefighter and I was going to stick with this.
Right. Those were the main ones that I had written down. Do you want to go over any other ones, Wendy?
There's just about 3 questions that ask you about whether it takes a toll on you and whether it's, affecting your mental health and how you deal with the pressure. So maybe you've touched on that a little bit, but is there anybody who has any sort of parting words of wisdom for how you deal with the pressures and the mental health aspect?
I think in any job that you do, regardless, there's going to be stresses in life. And those stresses are going to, depending on how you handle that stress is what's going to, help you in your career. We have a great agency, a bunch of great, men and women that we can talk to and go to barbecues to and have a life outside of our law enforcement or fire. And I think that's what helps us relieve that stress. And, having someone like John, when I see him out, I haven't seen John personally out there in the field, maybe I have, but when we see our fire partners out there, we're always, we always have a good connection with them, and we're friends, and I think we understand each other, that we can, always joke around with each other and tease each other, or maybe we'll play baseball against them and then they kick our butts at baseball because they just are always working out and doing all the good stuff. That's why, but I mean, it's just that compassion that we both like what we do. I can never be a fireman. I think is gosh darn dangerous. And John will tell you, I'll never be a cop because it's gosh darn dangerous, right? But we both are passionate about doing this job. And I can't be, a TAC flight officer like Chris Haas is, but he is, I'll let him speak to that, but that's what he was made for. And that's what he loves to do, right? So we all have, different stresses that we all have to deal with separately, regardless if you're a school teacher, a gardener, or an attorney. We all have different stresses, and we just have to learn how to deal with those. And, it's those outside relationships that helps us cope with that.
Great, thank you. Deputy Haas, John, anything to add to that?
The biggest thing I work in a pretty unique role in the sense, like, this is my job is cool and I really enjoy this job. And it's the longer I've been in this, it's the more that I realize you can't make your job your identity. So it's easy for people to say, oh, Chris Haas, he works on the helicopter and he's the helicopter guy because our agency isn't that big. I love doing this and this is a blast, but I have a whole life outside of here that doesn't involve helicopters. And when I come to work, I give it 110%. And I love this job, but I'm really into riding my Peloton bike. I love mountain bike riding. I love going on vacation with my wife. I have a whole life outside of here. I have, friends that are both in law enforcement, in the fire service, But then I've got friends that aren't in the fire service or not in law enforcement that do jobs that are totally different. So I think for me personally, it's kind of come to work, do your job, and do a really good job, and work as hard as you can. But also, don't make this your identity. My parents are both school teachers, and they both love their jobs, but that's not their entire identity. So I think you just have to make sure that you kind of have this balance, because I think over the long term of a career, you've got to have interests outside of your work. So that's kind of been, for my mental health, one of the best things is to kind of have that separation between there's my work life and then there's my home life. And yes, they mix sometimes, but they're also two totally different things.
Great, thanks. I think we've got to wrap up, but John, do you have any last little thing you want to say about that?
Oh, it's just about that. The only thing I would add to that is
Alrighty.
that just, you see so many horrible things in life. It's actually made me be a calmer, more relaxed person, because I realize my life is so much easier than what other people have going on in their lives. And I need to not get upset over little stuff.
Great. Thank you. Sorry, we do have to jump off because another session is going to start. And just a reminder to the students out there, there's one last session. It's not a panel, it's a workshop on knowing you, knowing yourself. You get to take a personality test, so you can still sign up. Rachel just put a link in the chat if you'd like to sign up. And I would just really like to thank all of our panelists today. It was really fascinating, interesting. I so appreciate you all being here. I'm so happy you made it, Deputy Haas. I'm sorry, I'm glad your call got canceled. But anyways, thanks again so much. And I know we would clap if we were all here, but we're not. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having us. Appreciate it.